Somaiya. So, this is a kind of pleasure to me to go back to my school and, contribute to their uh, things like, you know, uh, to like educate people around blockchain and what I'm interested in right now. So, just give me a second. I'll just do a bit of setting. Uh, mm, yeah. Can you see the presentation now? Yes. Okay. All right. Uh, okay. So I am dividing this presentation into three parts. First of all is Bitcoin overview and cryptography basics. The second one is Nakamoto Consensus, and the third one is Introduction to Ethereum. So for this, for the first lecture, this is the agenda. So the motivation for us to get to know more about Bitcoin and what it was before, what was a pre-Bitcoin era, I would say, and then we'll understand more about the blockchain data structure for secure digital ledger, and then we'll have a bit of technical terms like pseudonymity and consensus, and how we'll all put it together. So yeah. So right now, the motivation for us to understand about blockchain is because of this. So let's start from way back. We were nomads. We used to have a barter system. So if I have fish and you have rice or wheat, we used to trade that. So that was the first kind of trading system that we had as nomads. There was no concept of like currency or credit back then. But then as we evolved, we had this concept of credit, which is like borrowing something from you and then paying it later. We use it often today in today's world. Loan is form of a credit, line of a credit. And we also have now with dollars, like
Hello,
cash.
Avdesh.
Yeah,
Sorry
hello.
to interrupt, but your PPT is not visible.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, just give me a second.
Just try full screen share.
Yeah, just give me a second. Yeah, is it, wait, is it visible now?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay. My bad. Sorry. Uh, okay, so the motivation for I'll start again. So the motivation for us was to do trading, exchange goods. That was one of our ways, primitive ways. So if I have fish and you have wheat, we used to trade that, right? There was no concept of credit or currency in general. So right now what we have is, as we evolved through generations, we have this concept of credit and concept of cash. So for credit, it's basically like, I'll take something from you and I'll pay you back later in form of goods, in form of cash, something like that. So the line of credit is basically kind of a loan, right? And apart from that, what we have right now is the second thing is cash. So cash is basically for us that we are bear an amount to someone or somebody in exchange for the goods or services that we are having. So these two systems were developed before after the barter system that we used to deal goods with. Now after that, what happened was, we'll talk about cash mostly because credit or line of credit is not relevant to our course of action later. So for cash, we do have like pros and cons, right? So the pros are basically it's no default risk, no trust is required. As you can see, even in INR, we have a small box, like you say, it's written like I'm responsible to pay for certain amount of goods or services to the bearer or something like that, right? It's in the middle of the node somewhere. So the node trust is required because we already know that like it's issued by a central authority like RBI in case of INR. So there's no trust required. If I I give anyone any INR to any person in India, he'll happily accept it. So that's why there's no trust required. And there's quick settlement. I can just like if I want a like anything like Pepsi or Coke in India, I can just like pay them and then it's done. Boom. The second thing is online, offline. Sorry. So there's no middleman required. It's just like me, my money, and the seller. And the third is better anonymity. So this can be treated as pro as well as con because most of the what you say black market kind of stuff happens with cash as well, mainly in cash. So, but for the sake of our argument, I'm just putting it in the pros. Like we have better anonymity because of cash. Now the con is that there can be possible counterfeits. Like anyone can like make a copy of it, and you actually don't know how to differentiate between a counterfeit. So that is one of the cons. And the second con is it's kind of inconvenience. Like it is inconvenient to carry a huge load of cash to buy any large goods. So yeah, then the concept of digital cash comes in, and digital cash is basically like the pros of the cash, but also like bank used to experiment on this. We have UPI, for example, which is not still a good example of digital cash, but we have something online, right? So banks started using it. We have UPI in India. In Singapore, we have DBS Pay Now. So that kind of stuff. So now the digital cash pros are something like these. It's convenient to manage. Plus, you can have a transaction ledger on your app or on your website, so you don't have to like really really have to you don't have to maintain a ledger. The second pro is like you are actually scrutinized by a regulatory body, so there is like a central authority to manage all the things. The second thing is the cons. So there is a central point of failure in general. What I mean by that, if is like if SBI is hacked, there might be a probability of your account being hacked as well. If there has been bank account number stolen or bank account with password stolen from few hundred million, couple of millions of accounts, then that means that you have a vulnerability inside your bank, and that can be a big issue for you as your money is entirely locked inside a bank. So that's the meaning of central point of failure. The second thing is yeah, just give me a second. uh, yeah, so the second thing is we often get the news like banks getting hacked of, and like it has been throughout our generation that bank have been hacked, be it American banks or Indian banks like SBI and all. So there is a possibility of failure in this as well. Now, so oops. And the second point is there is strong trustworthy assumption that we are assuming that, hey, the bank is there, the bank can do, like transactions on behalf of us, and we don't have to like trust a third party person. All we can trust is on the bank. The bank has every trust on us. So if the bank fails, we might also get like our bank account can also be failed in that sense. Like you can see in Punjab National Bank and other banks that have been failed before. So that is the meaning of strong trustworthy assumption we have. Now, I want to discuss about this movement, cypherpunk movement, which is like a very philosophical movement that started in computer scientists and computer researchers back in I think 1980s. And what they were looking forward to was something related to privacy enhancing tech for social and political change. uh, and they strongly believe that smaller governments are better for the whole political and social situation of a country, and hence they don't trust the central authorities like banks or big large governments. uh, the second thing is they also mention something like privacy is not equal to secrecy. By this what I mean is that uh, this is a very famous quote by Eric Hughes, who is one of the pioneer of this movement, and he says that privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. Privacy is not equal to secrecy. A private matter is something one doesn't want the whole world to know, but a secret matter is something one doesn't want anybody to know. So a private matter can be anything regarding to your personal life or professional life. By this, what he means is that a private matter can be something one doesn't want the whole world to know. Like, you don't want to know what are my marks or something like that. But a secret matter is something one doesn't want anybody to know. So, something secret can be like, hey, I got I failed a grade, so I failed a course, so I don't want anyone to know, right? So that is a secret, and that's a difference between a private matter and a secret matter. So privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. So this is a very famous example we can all take is social media, right? uh, we are selectively showing one of our personas, or like our best lives on Instagram or something like that. So that is privacy, but a secret matter is something we don't want to share to anyone, be it like with our approval or without our approval. So one blog I came across many years ago, and that is what sparked my interest into cryptography in general, was why we should all have something to hide. I'll share the slides later. You can check that out. This is by Moxie Marlin Spike, who was one of the pioneer of end-to-end encryption. So all the WhatsApp chats you do are basically end-to-end encrypted. That was kind of founded by Moxie Marlin Spike. He didn't uh, find the company WhatsApp, but he did find co-founded the company Signal. That is very privacy friendly. So next was this year 2008. So we all know what happened during the 2008 crisis, right? Like banks were defaulting on their loans, and everything crashed down because of the housing market and the bubble. And that is why the word too big to fail, it often is not like true. We have seen this with Lehman Brothers, and with other like recent example I can give was of Silicon Valley Bank, which was pretty famous. They all said that hey, it's too big to fail. I think they had something like $50 billion asset under management, and it failed. Unfortunately. So yeah, so there are like systems, central, especially central authorities that are governed by the government or some conglomerate or some big bankers that sometimes tend to fail in general. And this is when the Bitcoin came in. So this was the era where a lot of people, including computer researchers, computer scientists, and people in general, who had bank accounts in Lehman Brothers and other banks, they were kind of frustrated with the whole scenario and the situation of government getting their tax, bailing the banks out with uh, the taxes they collected from the general people. So there was a bit of frustration among people. So the motivation, again, I'm coming back. So the motivation is benefits of digital cash without a trusted party. So how can we create a digital cash which was here, with the pros of digital cash, while without creating a trusted party? So we had the con, as we tend to have strong trustworthiness in one bank or in one central authority, how can we remove this and bring something better in general while still getting the pros that digital cash has. So this was in late 2008, I guess, where Satoshi Nakamoto, a very secretive person, I would say, published a paper on the internet, which was called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So we don't know Satoshi Nakamoto, who he is, right? We don't know his like anything in general. Like he has no digital footprints. We legit don't know who this person is. Many of the people in the research community say that there can be a group of people, or it can be a woman or a single man. We actually don't know who is. So Satoshi Nakamoto, an anonymous person on the internet, just released a paper called as Bitcoin, and this sparked an interest. And I think the timing was so correct for this paper to be released that first of all, people were frustrated, because of the central authorities and the stuff that happened during the mid 2008s. So people started to researching more on this, and started reading this. I would strongly encourage after this talk, if you get the time, to just uh, read this after I get through the basics of some technical details that I'm going to share to you. These technical details will definitely help you in getting through this Bitcoin paper very easily. Uh, After this, okay, so the goal is to now have a secure digital cash with pseudonymity without a central authority. So we'll break this down into three parts. So the secure digital cash, the first part, the second part will be with pseudonymity, and the third part is without a central authority. So now, how can we do this? So we have these three what you say pointers right now. So we can create a secure digital cache with data structure and cryptography. The second, for pseudonymity, we use identity on blockchain. I'll explain this whole everything later. And for central authority, we do something called as distributed consensus. So before this, I want to clear a myth that Bitcoin was not the first blockchain. But the concept of blockchain actually came in the late 1980s, where it was called as timestamps. And timestamps was to generally have anything on the internet timestamped. What I mean by timestamp is, let's suppose say you're making a lemonade, right? And I have these pictures. I have clicked some pictures of, let's suppose say example, I have water in a glass. Then the next picture I'm adding sugar. The next picture is adding lemon to it. So these three are the pictures on the internet, right? But I only know that how to make a lemonade and not anyone on the internet. So I'll timestamp them. Timestamp by the word timestamp means I'll add time to it, or I'll whenever I upload it, that it will be written a time on it on the picture file. So that is what timestamping is called as. So few professors in Stanford and UC Berkeley were trying to timestamp everything on the internet, be it any file you upload or any HTTP request you send to a client or a server. So that is something which was, you can say, initial stage of a blockchain. So since then, and also the point of digital cash, right? Bitcoin was not the first digital cash at all. There were few other cash systems before, digital cash systems before, but there was a problem with them of double spending. I'll explain a bit more double spending, the problem of double spending further in the lecture series. So just stay stick with me. So yeah, so we'll have this. So our goal is to create a system which has secure digital cash. By the word secure, it's mostly related to cryptography. Digital cash is mainly related to data structure. Pseudonymity is mainly, how you can be anonymous, a bit anonymous on a blockchain. and without central authority is mainly distributed consensus, which is kind of like consensus mechanism, which I'll go through later. So we'll discuss more on these 3 points right now currently. Yeah, so this is just a example of a ledger, you know. So a ledger is basically where you write transaction logs, or in simpler terms, it is a database. Okay, so for us to create a secure digital cash, we'll obviously are dealing with transactions, right? Me sending someone, maybe Alice, 10 digital coins, him sending Bob another 15 digital coins or something like that. So that it includes transactions mainly. So we'll all have to share a similar ledger between everyone. So for example, now let's suppose say this is Alice and this is Bob. Uh, Give me a sec. Oops. Uh, yeah. So this is Alice and this is Bob. And let's suppose say the transaction is just happening between Alice and Bob and vice versa. So it's pretty simple, right? If Alice wants to give 5 digital cash coins to Bob, they will both write it down on their individual ledgers that they have, right? But the problem comes when we have a group of people. Maybe there can be a malicious guy here named as, let's suppose, say David. Okay, so David doesn't want to write on his ledger, and how we can like prove that which ledger is correct? So this is a problem where we kind of like get confused on which ledger to really trust on. When there is a transaction between Alice and Bob, or like just two parties, the transactions are more simple and easy to maintain. But if there is a group among like 10-15 friends, it gets way complicated. So now what what does blockchain means? So blockchain kind of, let's like divide the two words like block and chain. So we all like, I'll just explain this in a bit further. So it's like a chain of blocks where all the ledgers are stored in a block, in a system called as block. So all these blocks are to be chained together to make a blockchain. That is kind of a layman terms definition. So I'll get through the simpler terms right now. I'm sure you have told me that everyone here is technical, but I just want to like get through this as soon as possible, so that I can discuss more on the technical side of the blockchain design. So, what is an algorithm? Algorithm is something like, you must have heard about Dijkstra algorithm and something like that. You must have done, I think, data structure as well. So, algorithm is basically a form of like multiple data structures, which is like, a set of steps that you follow to derive something. For Dijkstra's, it's like the shortest path among the paths, something like that. So that is data structure. So this annotates like, if you want to like make a food dish, how do you make it? It's kind of an algorithm, right? There are like predefined simple steps that you follow to make a dish. So that is kind of an algorithm. So this is the net. Oops. Oh, okay. I think there is a slide miss. Anyway, I'll just continue. So data structure, I think you must be all knowing, and protocol is something is like set of instructions, specific instructions that everyone follows. So one of the best example is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, that we all use today. I'm sure that HTTP, everyone. And the last one is computer network. So computer network is basically a client server model, and yeah, so this is like a like a one-way client-server model, and this is peer-to-peer. So we'll be discussing more on the peer-to-peer side, since every in this example, as everyone had their own ledger systems, so will the local systems will have. So that's why we'll need a peer-to-peer system instead of a client-server one-way system. So yeah, so let's go mainly into the first part, is secure digital cash, what it means and how we can implement it. So what does secure mean? What does secure mean? The first point we should be asking to ourselves is like, how do we own assets in general, be it real estate, gold, or on the internet, any photo of ours, something like that. So there is a concept called as proof of valid ownership on assets, be it real world assets like real estate, or be it on online assets or like Bitcoin. So the thing with humans is they like to have assets on their name, in their name. So that's the validity check about the ownership part. Like, you know if I'm saying that i have that I have the asset, let's suppose say real estate. uh I know that I'll have the agreement or something related to the government of India. I'll have a document, right? But how do you do that on the internet? That's the main part. And that's the what I say, one of the few problems that every digital cash before Bitcoin had. And how do you like really know that no one can steal your asset on the internet online? So that is another problem as well. So, and also that is the no one can steal or spend my coin. That is something uh which we call in CS background as double spending. So let's suppose say I have you know um 10 10 10 digital coins, right? How will I know that uh, someone is like having that asset, the same asset as me, and spending it, and it's going from my wallet, right? And also the double spending part is like, uh if I'm sending 5 bitcoins to, suppose I have 10 bitcoins, and I'm sending the 10 bitcoins to Alice. uh how can you ensure that those 10 bitcoins are reaching to Alice, and I'm not like duplicating it or replicating it and sending it to Bob as well? That is one of the problems that Bitcoin has able to solve. So yeah, so let's go now. Before this, no worry. So how do you say that proof of ownership? Oh, by the way, I have a question. So do you think double spending happens with cash as well? Can anyone say anything from the chat? I just want this to be a one like discussion session. So you can also like talk in this. Yeah. And if you have any questions, just like raise your hands. So do you think double spending problem arises while you do a transaction with cash, like INR? Anyone? I'll just take a sip of water then. So the answer is no. The double spending won't happen here, because every cash has a number on it. So for Singapore dollar, you know, uh, here's the number. I think there's some number behind the back maybe. So that's the number, and that is the only number that you can find on one single note, right? So this happens in every fiat currency that we have, be it INR, Singaporean dollar, or USD. So the double spending problem cannot it does not exist in the fiat or cash system. So how do you have this concept of owning something on the internet? So there's something called as digital signatures here. So this is more like cryptography, and we'll go into cryptography more. And it will be a bit math heavy, but I hope that I don't make it math heavy and a bit more fun. So there is a thing called as digital signature here. What does digital signature do is like it basically stamps your uh, you know currency or your assets in in the online world. So that is called like something called as unforgeable stamp, which is you cannot remove that digital stamp with that asset. So just like a piece of land is the proof of ownership is via an agreement or via a affidavit or something like a government document. The same applies to the online assets with digital signatures. So what is digital signature? We'll get to it. So digital signature is an algorithm where you have a message. Message can be anything. Let's suppose say a transaction or anything. Like you can also upload. There are few algorithms that are also able to like process files. So you can upload files of any kind, be it mp3, mp4, like audio video files as well. But for sake of simplicity and for blockchain related stuff, we are just going to stick to message. So message is anything such as like a transaction, me sending Alice 10 bitcoins, or like Alice sending it to Bob or something like that. Yeah. So what does message, how do we create a digital signature out of a message is something like this. So every owner or every person will have a public key as well as a private key. So please keep in mind of private key and public key. This is very, very, very important in cryptography and as well as asymmetrical cryptography. So there are two branches of cryptography. One is called as symmetrical cryptography, and the second one is asymmetrical cryptography. And digital signature or public slash private key systems are generally in the asymmetrical, mostly in the asymmetrical cryptography section. So if we have a message here, let's suppose say Alice sending, uh, yeah, Alice sending Bob uh, 1 Bitcoin. Okay, BTC. Okay, so this is the message. This is the transactional message we have. So, oops, you can see my slides, right? Hello.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so oops. Yeah. So the message is that Alice is sending 1 Bitcoin to Bob, which is so they both will have their own public keys and private keys. So everyone on the digital signature algorithm or in general with Bitcoin or cryptography, when you're dealing with digital assets, you generally have a private key and a public key. Go- this goes same for Bob as well. So what uh, the algorithm states that, or what happens under the hood is like the message is getting signed by Alice's private key, and it is getting generated into a digital signature. I'll just write it down, digital signature. Yeah. So this transaction, I'll show you the math later. I have a few formula. I'll show you that later. I'll just explain it right now. So this transaction with this message with Alice's private key will form a digital signature. And what will happen is if we not like if we have to decrypt the digital signature, right? What we'll have to do with the digital signature is like use Bob's Bob's public key to decrypt the message so that we can get the message back. Uh, if you want to know more about this, I would highly suggest you to go and search for a professor named as Dan Boney. He is very big in cryptography and cryptocurrency in general as well. He's a Stanford professor, and he has this course on cryptography on Coursera. I'm pretty sure. I think KJ Somaiya has. free access to Coursera, so maybe you can check that course out. He talks more in what is digital signature and how the mechanism works. So this is just like a layman term of what digital signature algorithm is like. So that is the 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 digital signature algorithm. Now I'll show you in a more mathematical way. That was the diagram. Now it's a bit more mathematical, I would say. Uh, Now what is it like? We have a key pair, Alice and Bob. And by the way, these key pairs are unique to each other. So Alice has a key pair and Bob has a key pair, and they are both very unique to each. Like you can't differentiate between Alice's. You'll have to differentiate between Alice's public key and Bob's public key. Uh, and the thing with public and private key is public key is like your kind of identity sort, which I'll talk about later in the lecture series. The private key is uh, something which has to be anonymous. If you expose your private key to anyone, they'll have the access to your account, to your digital account. So that is the assumption that we make, the cryptographers make, or computer researchers make, that the private key is not public. Like you cannot share the private key with anyone. That this should be with you all the time. If you share the private key to anyone, the key pair will be compromised. That means everything that you have stored or signed on as a message will be decrypted decrypted instantly, because everyone has your private key. So the public key is kind of your identity. Private key should be anonymous every time. So what does happen under the hood? So this is a function, sign function under digital signature algorithm, which showcases that the private key of Alice and the message that Alice is sending Bob, how much was it? 1 Bitcoin. This is the message and this is the private key, which creates a digital signature. And this is very unique. Very, like, you cannot forge this. And this digital signature algorithm, or these two functions are one-way functions, kind of. So you cannot go back to the sorry, my bad. I'll just repeat myself. So the sign function is with the private key of Alice and message of Alice and Bob. So this is a unique digital signature which has the impressions of Alice. Now if I uh, instead of a private key, I write something very gibberish, which doesn't make any sense. It will give me completely gibberish. It's just like, the concept of garbage in, garbage out. Uh, but if I send up the private key, if I sign it with the same private key and I sign another message, let's suppose say Alice giving Bob five now, 5 Bitcoins, the digital signature will be completely different than the previous one. So that is the magic of digital signature, I would say. And for the verification, what Bob needs is like uh, Bob needs his public key, the signature, which is this one, and the message as well. So to verify that the digital signature is valid or not, and this is a Boolean expression, by the way, you can only get only get the answer in yes or no. So it is in one way, you can say that it's a one-on-one function, but still it's returning something. So we cannot mathematically say that. So right now, if everything matches according to the previous things like message and signature that has been sent and signed by Alice, and the public key is of Bob, then it will provide a yes. Otherwise, if there is something random in terms of signature, like suppose we are using this one instead of this one, it will provide a complete straight no. And same goes for the message. So this is very unique concept of cryptography that Bitcoin has. So one thing, so you must be asking that, how a key pair is generated, how you match a public key with a private key. So there is something called as elliptic curve DSA, which is basically math, but I won't go into it uh, in detail. So this is just like an elliptic curve that we have, and we have these roots P, Q, and R, and mostly the key generation is formed by a private key. So the computer like randomly will select a private key, which will be something like 0x5987, something like random. uh, all the major languages have this something called as random generator, random what do you say, output generator or something like that. Like I think in Java has integer dot random or something. So yeah, it's like every language has this derived. So the private key is been formed, and through the private key, let's suppose if the private key is on the point P, then the public key is generated through like multiplying QR with P or something like that. So it's a very complex algorithm, I would say, of elliptic curve that creates private keys and public keys. So so uh, so private key is used to generate the public key, as I said. So the key length of 250 of a public key or a private key is 256 bits. So you must be asking, like, is there any way to guess a private key or a public key? uh and I would say there isn't, because the thing with a public key or a private key, since it's 256 bits, the mathematical probability of you guessing is like the permutation and the combinations of uh number of private keys and public keys you can make is like 2 to the power of 256, which is like way higher number. And this was in back in, I think, 2018 or 2019, that some guy from a Reddit post that I read was, he said that it would take 10 to the power of 38 Tianhen 2 supercomputer, which is the fastest computer back then. I think it was a Chinese supercomputer. So it will take this much of time uh, to for the entirety of the existence of everything to exhaust half of the key space of a ES256 key. So this is like a protocol to make the public and private key. So 10 to the power of 38 is like billions and billions of years, right? So I don't think anyone like can guess a public key or a private key in general, unless it's compromised. So now I'll just skip to this uh, part, and I'll go to the hash function. So what is a hash function? So hash function is basically like a funnel, I would say. A funnel is kind of, you input anything, be it a plain text or anything like that. uh, like, let's suppose, say it's a text of 5 MBs. Okay, 5 MB worth of text, and it will give you a short digest. So by short digest, I mean random numbers that doesn't make any sense, and it isn't related to anything, to the text you provided. So one example that we did it is like, we sent this whole text to the a hash function, and it returned us this string. So this is called as digest. The output is called as digest, and this is the long plain text that we do that we inputted. So uh, the thing with hash function is there are multiple hash functions in the market, and most of the hash functions are either bit broken, I would say, and others that are still yet to be broken. So the hash function is always and has been a one-way function. So if you write thank you blockchain at NTU, it will return this. And if you like, create any sort of like, what to say, change, or if you manipulate a string, even if it's like uppercase u to like a lowercase u, the whole thing will change. I'll give you an example, a live demo in few seconds, but just hear me out for this one. So one way function is like, you cannot reverse this back to the message. It's very like the possibility of this happening is astronomically low. It's like 0.0000001. It's kind of very low. So that is kind of why we use hash function to encrypt messages. So the hash function's input is, we often call it as pre-image, and the output is often called as digest. uh, and yeah, so for the hash function, there are like two types of hash functions in cryptography. There are multiple, but for the case of this lecture, we are just going to stick with two main. The one is UHF, which is universal hash function, that is key hashed. I don't want to go into this. It's a bit complicated, so we'll just skip this. It's called as one of the UHF is called as MAC, and the second one is collision resistant hash. So what does this mean? Is like, if you input this, uh, and after like 10 days, if you input the same message again, you'll get the same hash back. That's the thing. That's the way a collision resistant hash means. Uh, and one of the major hash is SHA-256, which we will learn more about, and which Bitcoin uses. So I'll just give you a quick demo of SHA-256. Just give me a second. Uh, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Oh, not YouTube, sorry. Yeah. So this is something a guy created and open sourced it. So this is SHA-256. So SHA means secured hashing algorithm. There have been other algorithms as well, that as you can see here, there have been SHA-1, SHA-256, SHA-3. So these represent mostly, these represent mostly the bytes of output that they generate. So no matter how big is the data, SHA-256 will always output 256 bits. That's like universal. Maybe you can like send it like 20 MB of data, 1 GB of data, 10 strings, 20 strings, 100 strings. It will always generate a 256 bit hash. So I'll just demo you something. So I'll write thank you, Somaiya. Okay, so this is the hash we have right now. And let's suppose we, I just changed the capital S to a small s. So before changing, we had 4EA5CC, 8ECB. Okay, for the small one. Now, if I change it to S, oops, the capital S, it will be entirely different. So the starting and the ending point are entirely different. So that is one of the major, uh, you know, advantages of SHA-256, that even a small change can change the hash entirely. And this is like a 256 byte, bit of output that we have, the hash we have. So so that is what Bitcoin is currently using. So just so that you can, we all use GitHub, right? We have coding projects and all. So GitHub used to even use SHA-1. So now they have shifted to some other SHA. I'm not sure which one, but before, like when back in, I think, 2015, they used SHA-1. So the things you see here, right? It's actually the SHA-1 hash, the output. So this is used when merge a pull request, or change something in the file. So these are the hash that are being used. And one sad thing about SHA-1 is that there has been collision found, like, you know but few researchers at Google in 2017, they found a crack to it. So actually, they did something. They did a bit of research to uh, overturn this into the hash to the message. They found the way how they did it. You can check that out on shattered.io. It's a very hilarious name, shattered.io. But anyways, moving to the second hashing algorithm that we have is MD5. MD5 is Microsoft Utility File Integrity, which was broken by a Chinese professor named as Prof. Wang. So MD5 was used to check all the system files before booting the Microsoft system. So this was very essential for any Microsoft device. So what it used to do was, it used to go to the kernel and check all the files are there or not. If there is any problem or issue, it will not boot up. So this was a major, what you say, drawback for MD5 and for Microsoft in general. Now, so SHA-256, I'll just go through a bit of diagrams and all. What does SHA-256 does is, like, as I said, right, this is all a message, or you can say these are all, single bytes as well. So the let's suppose say the input is 512 bit. So every message has like 1 bit, I would. Oops. Uh, Yeah, so every message will have a bit like 00, 01, 11, something like that. So all the messages and all will be gone through this algorithm, that is the hashing algorithm. And everything will, like, as you can see, right, this bit has been hashed before this bit, and both of these bits are hashed by the next hashing algorithm. So hashing function, sorry. So this is how uh, SHA-256 works under the hood. And remember that the 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 output is always 256 bit. This is just a bit of diagram. I think if you have done digital logic a bit, this plus sign and then a whole circle. This is XOR get, and this is what it looks like, kind of. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You can search more on Merkle, Damgard, and Davis Mayer and Shah-Cal 2 block cipher, which are the technologies. Hello. Oops. Yeah, can you see me? Is everything good? Hello. Okay, all right. Sorry, my bad. All right, all right. Yeah. So this is like under the hood. XOR gate have been used in all of the functions to create a 256-bit hash. Then yeah. So I'll just go through this. I think I don't have much time left. So I'll have to cover a lot more than this. So I'll just go through this quickly. So SHA-3 is using KCAC 256. KCAC and SHA-256 are not the same actually. KCAC is this is you know is been used in Ethereum, which we'll talk more about later. And this is actually used to write smart contracts on Ethereum, which we'll talk later. But KCAC and SHA-256 are like similar, but just sons of different families. Like, Rick and Morty and Simpsons, they are still cartoon characters, but they are from different families and different sides. So kind of like that. So, and this is the diagram. Uh, yeah. So yeah. So we tick this thing which we learned recently about proof of valid ownership on an asset, and also about the double spending problem. So I'll just skip this. Yeah. So now we'll go to the data structure, the main aspect of a blockchain, right? So right now we learned about the hash function, and we learned about the message. In case of our previous examples, it was mainly the transactions data, but data can be here in context of blockchain, can be anything, as I said, like a file or audio video file, anything. So right now, what uh, we have is like we are creating a set of blocks that is chained to each other. And how is it chained? It's very interesting to see. So right now we have something called as Genesis block. So Genesis block is like the starting of a block. So it's kind of like, for us, Genesis can be like, you know uh, gods created us, kind of like that. So the Genesis block is the block where everything starts for a blockchain. So a Genesis block definitely will not have a previous hash of the block, because it's like block number one, or in computer language you can call it as block number zero. So what it will do is like it will just connect the hashing function to the data of the second block, and then since we already have a hash of the Genesis block, it will be connected to the previous hash. So how you can like visualize this is like you have a block of data, and then it is connected to another block of data. You have a block of data which is connected to the another block of data using something called as a hash pointer. So this is generally like a pointer that we use in C or C++, but the hash is of the data itself. So remember we did the SHA-256 one. So this is the data, and we are hashing it. So this is the hash recently. So if our data is thank you Somaiya on this block, the previous data will be of the previous hash will be of the Genesis block. And if we are saying here like like suppose it uh, thank you blockchain and NTU, the the data will be here, but the previous hash will be the this value that we had of this data. So this is how we create a chain of blocks. And this use case is basically tamper evident, which means that you cannot directly change the data of, let's suppose, say this is block 2, this is block 1, this is block 0. So you cannot actually, this is block 3, sorry. So you cannot actually tamper the data of block 1 when you already have a block 2 or block 3. In case if you tamper the data on block 1, it will create another block which will have a very different hash of itself, a different hash and different data. I'll just call it D1 and I'll call it as hash 1. So this will be an entirely different chain than this one, and we'll discuss more on the section of distributed consensus, and how we legit look how we distinguish between this chain and this chain, and who will win in a street fight, I would say. Yeah. So we have done this too. Now the thing with secure digital cash is something like this. So uh, we have Alice's public address, okay, and this is a transaction. So this is the data that we were referring to. Okay, this is data of another block. So I'll just name it as D1 and D2. Okay, I'll also, okay, no worries. Okay, so now we are having a situation here where Alice's public key has 2 bitcoins. Okay, now what Alice does is she goes through the digital signature algorithm, and she creates a unique signature that we previously talked, and we previously, like, you know said that, hey, the signature can be is only possible with, like, making a signature is possible through Alice's private key and the message, okay, which creates the digital signature. So this is the digital signature that we have right now, and that is the input that we have on this data one block. Now the output will be, if she wants to send this to, Bob, uh, the output will be that the two bitcoins will be sent to Bob on Bob's public address. Okay. Now, Bob's Bob, if Bob wants to like send this to Charlie, so this is a full way transaction. That means that all the two bitcoins are being used up here, uh, used up in the sense, like, have been transferred to Bob. Okay, so all the, so now the balance or the ledger will show that Alice will have exactly 0 bitcoin. But now, for in Bob's case, if Bob just wants to send 1 bitcoin to Charlie, so what does this mean, and how does the bitcoin mechanism is used here? So instead of one output here, there will be two outputs. I'll just write it as output one, output two. This is input one. This will be input zero, output zero. So the two bitcoins that Bob wants to out of two doors, only one he has to send to Charlie, right? So he'll definitely sign his digital signature first, so that that will prove that he is owning those two bitcoins using the same thing that uh, as I discussed. But now there will be two outputs. One will be the first one, that 1 bitcoin has to be sent to Charlie, and the second output will be that 1 bitcoin will be sent back to Bob's public address. And we are talking about here everything public address. All the transactions or the signatures are happening with private address, while the sending of the bitcoin or the addresses out of the block or the transactions are all public. So as I said, right, so there will be two bitcoins, there will be two outputs. 1 bitcoin will be sent to Charlie, and 1 bitcoin will be sent to Bob again. Now, this is something called as unspent transaction output. So UTXO, which is called as UTXO. So basically that is what I explained right now. So let's suppose, say Alice is here. Alice is sending 4 bitcoins to Bob and 6 bitcoins to Charlie. So this is how the mechanism thinks of it as. So one input is here. So this is the signature kind of, and then two output goes to 4 and 6. So you'll notice this, that the binary structure that is being created here, it's not necessary that it has to be binary. You can send another transaction here as well, so it can be like three outputs instead of two. But in general, the case I'm making is like the input should be equal to the output, as you can see here. So as you can see, the input is having 10 bitcoins, and the output is getting distributed as a ratio of 4 and 6. So what I mean by that is, like, 4 plus 6, the output will be equal to 10. And you can see the similar trend here as well. If there is only one output, obviously he sent entire 4 bitcoins to the uh, person, let's suppose, say David. And you can see here as well. So if you have two transactions here, if you want to send to two-person, the the output will be one to this block, and the another will be this. And as you can see, 2 plus 4 will be again 6. So you can say that there can be two cases here. So the first case is, wait, let me just erase everything. So the first case is, oops, uh, yeah. So the first case is Alice is sending 4 bitcoin to Bob and 6 bitcoin to Charlie. Or else what we can also say that, Alice is sending 4 bitcoins to Bob. Sorry, 6 bitcoins to Bob and 4 bitcoins back to her again. That means that she only wants to do one transaction. But as you can see in UTXO previously, even if you have to send a part of your Bitcoin, there has to be another output which will send again to you, again back to your public address. So this is the case I'm making here. So if Alice wants to send just 6 bitcoins to Bob, then she will have to send 4 bitcoins back to her account as well. So this is all under the hood of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Bitcoin mechanism and system. Uh, what you can see here is this generally does not happen with Ethereum or other blockchains that are fairly advanced. This has been implemented in 2008, so obviously there have been systemic, I would say, unreliability here. But the under the hood mechanism is something like this. So if Bob wants to send out of those 6 bitcoins to Charlie, he'll have to send 4 to Charlie and then 2 back to Bob again. Right? Yeah. So that is kind of like a binary system here. Uh, Now, so that is what I explained to you, the change system. So if Bob is sending 50 Bitcoin, so Bitcoin will be in and output will be like if he wants to send 0.5 to Alice, so 4.5 will be back to him. So yeah, so we'll all put it together now. So this is a block right now, and we have everything here. So we already discussed about block the previous hash. We'll also discuss about the block number and the digital signature here that we are making of a data. Now this is the data, and I want to go more to this into in depth. So as you can see, the block number is here 67, and these are all individual transactions. Individual transaction. The short form of transaction is like TXN that I'm using here. So right now, what happens is that the first transaction happening in this block is you can trace it back to the block number 66 with the index 3. So and the actual transaction is this. So this only will be stored on this block, not this one, because as you can like see, you can always go back to an index and a block number. So I'm just, this is just for representational purposes. This is the one that is been stored on a blockchain, but not this, the current blockchain. So yeah, so this is the first, what you say, transaction. The second transaction can be found on a block number 23, index 1. And the third transaction marked as number 2 here, the input is none, and but then there is still like an output here. So what does that mean? So this means that the block itself is creating new coins because there is no other transaction here. It means that 25 bitcoins have been allocated to Alice. I'll go through again in depth during distributed ledger system and distributed system in the next lecture slides. So now the goal has been finished. The first goal was securely, have an asset which you can own on the internet using cryptography and the hash functions and digital signatures that we saw. Now comes the pseudo anonymity and without having a central authority. So we'll be discussing these 2 points now. So what does this mean? So it means that you don't know, right? Like what your identity is online. Like you can be anything online. Oops, what's happening? Uh, Hello. Oops. Okay. Uh, okay. All right. Okay. Uh, so what does pseudonymity mean? So we tend to have less secure digital identity on internet rather than like a real life identity, right? Like anyone can create my own fake Facebook account and name it as Avdesh Charjan and use it, and my friends will think that, hey, this is Avdesh and he has created a new Facebook account, but it's not me. It's some scammer or like someone who's trying to maliciously do something with my reputation or my name. So how do you solve this problem on Bitcoin? Like how you can be anonymous or pseudo-anonymous? So pseudo means like fake anonymity. Pseudo means fake, and anonymous means like your secret. So uh, as I told you, like there are uh, two sets of keys, where one is private key and one is public key. Where public key is where you transact basically, and it's publicly available to anyone. So this becomes your identity on a blockchain, especially on Bitcoin. I'll go later on how this has been changed on Ethereum and other blockchain identities using something called as Ethereum name service. So we all know about DNS, right? Like domain name service, which converts these number of strings or number of numbers like 1.00081.55 to something like google.com, right? It's same with ENS as well, Ethereum name service, which is something like those public addresses are created, are linked to something like avdesh.eth, avdesh.eth. So my public address is linked to this ENS, Ethereum name service. That is the full form of it. So this is currently just for Ethereum, and other blockchains like Algorand and Solana have their own domain name service as well. So the main question, right, on the internet, nobody knows you are a cat. Like anyone can be, uh, anyone can create Facebook accounts, as I said, and no one knows who that guy is. And the question arises that I can create as many private keys and as many public keys I want, really. Like I can go to, you know, the hashing algorithm, and I just like can spam and create multiple accounts. Uh, I can show you right now how I can create that. Maybe you can also do this with me. This is, oops, wait, I can like just show. So this is mainly on the Ethereum network. So this is a MetaMask. MetaMask is just a wallet system. So wallet system is, you can see my MetaMask, right? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just type in my password. Okay. So I'm currently on test one. I'll just change the network. Oops. Yeah. Yeah. So this is what it means to have a public key. So I can literally send this to anyone on on the internet, and they can like send me Ethereum or US dollars or any asset that is on a blockchain. So this is what a public key is. Now the private key, I'll show it to you. You should not do this to like, you should not expose your private key, but I'm just showing you this because first of all, I've named this as test one. I can create multiple accounts, like add account and add a new account, and I'll just name it as test, maybe like 256, and it will create a new account. So you can like literally spam and create multiple accounts as you can. So as you can note that this public address is entirely different than the one I have here, test one. Yeah. So I'll just show you oops, the the private key. You should not do this. Yeah. Now, if you type in this private key on any Ethereum supported wallet, you can literally see test one. Like you can have this wallet if you have that private key. That's what I mean. Now I'll just go and go to uh, a bit of more detailed version of what a blockchain is and how you can, have transactions, scan and everything. So this is Ethereum name, so sorry, Etherscan, which is like a blockchain explorer that we use. So everything that you see here, right? The data here or the data that you have here is everything is noted down. It might be encrypted, but you can still see those data on a blockchain explorer. The blockchain explorer is kind of like querying data. It's more or less like Google for seeing the transactions, blockchain transactions. So that's why we call it pseudo anonymous. Like you you can know that the guy is having it's the guy's account, but you can really not know that it's his account in some other way. So I'll just oops data I'll so this is something called as Etherscan. This is mainly for Ethereum. Bitcoin has its own. I'm showing for Ethereum because it's a bit advanced, I would say, and the UI UX is better than the Bitcoin one. So I'll just type in, as I said, right, Avdesh dot it, which is my ENS. So as you can see, oops, uh, it's taking a while. Yeah. So since I already own Avdesh.eth, it's attached to my main account. Okay. So this is what you can say, or this is what you can assume that this is my account, like my legit account. And if I click on this, you can see all the things that I have done on the blockchain, all the activities I've done, the past transactions, how many transactions I've done, how many, Ethereum I hold, uh, the ETH balance and the ETH value in US dollars, and what was the last transaction made. It was 70 days ago. So yeah, and you can also see NFTs and all. I won't talk about NFTs, but anyway, so you can actually see the transaction hash that has been produced, the block number, when was this happened. So this is kind of like actually timestamping that I was discussing. The whole concept of timestamping was invented. The whole concept of Bitcoin was through timestamping, and which happened around like 1980s. Yeah. So what was the asset? You can also see that, and where did I transfer that and everything. Transaction field, I'll come to that later. So if I click on this transaction, it will show me that this is the transaction hash. The block number is this. It's successful. Like it has been already implemented on block 1864922, which is kind of like one of the where did it go? Yeah, which is kind of one of the blocks here. Uh, and it happened 70 days ago. So I transferred 150 USD to this. Oh, this actually this transaction. Okay, I picked up the wrong transaction because this was the transaction that I got hacked into. Like one hacker literally like hacked my wallet because for for some reason my private key got compromised and he transferred 150 US dollars to his account. So yeah, that's why I'm telling you, do not share private key to anyone. So yeah, so this was the transaction that was done by the hacker from my wallet. So as you can see, 150 USDC. USDC is another way of saying US dollar on a blockchain. It was transferred to the hacker's account there, and yeah, as you can see, you can also see and investigate on how he did it or something like that. But it's a bit complicated and out of our syllabus, so I won't do this. Uh, anyway, we'll come back again. So yeah, how can you be pseudo anonymous, and how can you solve this problem? Uh, yeah. Oops. Just give me a sec. Yeah. So yeah. So and is it really untraceable that that the question is, the third question arises, and there have been like research done on this. You can check this out, coin join and ring signature as well. So I would say it is a bit traceable. As you can see in my example, I can still see the hacker's uh, address, right? So if I click on this, I'll see his whole transaction history as well. It will be very difficult for me to go through all the transactions and see where my 150 USDC is right now. Uh, but it can be doable, but it's pretty hard. So you can legit see the hacker as, you know, holdings of worth of $7,300. Out of that, 150 is mine. Yeah. Anyway, uh, so yeah. So as an example of Ethereum and Bitcoin is similar. You can create multiple accounts. So this is a terminal. Oops, a terminal screenshot that I took, which is like, you know, you can create multiple private addresses with multiple private keys with multiple private public keys as well. So you can see this. So yeah. So another thing is like, how do you verify or how do you prove is that, you know, all the transactions that have been here inside this blog, uh, yeah, inside this blog have been added to the blockchain. You know, like how do you say that, hey, this has been, I'll just go back. Yeah, this transaction or this data has been added to blockchain. How will you get this success? Okay, so there is something called as we'll discover this now. So there's something called as Merkle tree. So now, uh, as you know that we are bound by space and time, right? What I mean by that is like you cannot really like have all the transactions of all the blockchain in one block. You'll have to obviously distribute that as well, right? And there is a limit to add a certain number of transactions in a block. So in Bitcoin's case, uh, in in Bitcoin's case, it's around 1 MB of data that you can store throughout a block. So this will not exceed more than 1 MB. So that is one of the key systems in the Bitcoin system. So right now, how will you do this? And you know, like there will be multiple transactions like these. Even if you see this one transaction which is on block 66, index number 3, this transaction will also can also happen that, you know, this might be linked to another transaction from block, you know, like 52, index number 5. So how will you like literally store all those transactions on a block? And this has to happen. If this is block 67, this transaction have to be stored on block 68 as well, and all the blocks that are going to be uh, after block 67. So the idea here is to, like, you know, again, do a mathematical formula or like apply some algorithm to minimize the space that has been utilized by all the transactions. And that is where Merkle trees come from. So this guy is Merkle, Merkle. This guy studied biology in his undergrad, Stanford undergrad. Yeah, he was at Stanford. And then somehow he changed his career to cryptography, which was completely irrelevant to what he did in undergrad. So there's still hope. If if you want to pursue your career in some other field, you can do that as well. Yeah. So what Merkle did was something like this. So you guys know this as binary search tree, or not search tree, but a binary tree which has like these are leaf, and this is root, and these are all like, you know, the children. These are all the children. I hope you have studied this in DSA. So I'm just going through. I'll just go through this briefly. So what X1 is like, let's suppose say uh, transaction number 0. So transaction number 0. I'll just write here TXN. Here it will be TX number 1, and so on and so forth. So these are all transactions that have happened before. And what Merkle uh, proposed, that if you if you run the SHA-256 algorithm on them individually, individually is a very key word here. And what is the output of SHA-256? What's the bit? Can anyone type it in the chat? Like, what are the total number of output bits SHA-256 gets outputted? Can anyone type it in the chat, or just answer it? Hmm. Oh, okay. I think, all right, never mind. So this will be everything that since the hash function is SHA-256, all the outputs from here, all the hash functions will ultimately serve the output as a 256 bit that we previously discussed. So that is why the 256 number is so important here. Uh, right now, so what is y1? So the mathematical way to put this is like this: y1 is equals to the hash of x1. So this is y1. So this will be a 256 hashed version of transaction 0, and this will be the hashed version of transaction 1. And y1, and here the h will be a concatenation of y1. Sorry, concatenation is indicated as, sorry, my bad. Yeah, concatenation is uh, concatenated with y2. So these two y1 and y2 are concatenated to get y9, and this happens throughout the tree. And this is how all the transactions that you see here are getting converted into just one 256 bit. So this is like a accumulation of all the transactions, and you're just going to have 1 to 56 bit output. So that is very, very useful, since blockchain or space in general, be it in a database, in computer, we generally tend to avoid having a lot of memory, right? So that was the idea behind a Merkle tree. Now there have been advances to this as well. There is something called as Merkle tree as well right now, which Ethereum is using. It was a recent research and discovery that they made, and they are implementing this. I think they have implemented this in November last year. Yeah, you can check Merkle tree out as well. So yeah, so this is kind of what I explained to you right now, and yeah, so the putting it all together picture is something like this. So this whole thing is Merkle tree that we just discussed, and this block, as I said, that it contains a previous hash and timestamp as well, as we discovered here. And they have timestamp as well. Uh, More or less this picture, even though Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are very different, but in this context, uh, all the similarities are same. So Ethereum was developed with the where Bitcoin ended. So what I mean by that is, Ethereum, the cons of Bitcoin, like the UXTO thing, because just give me a second. Oops, where is the UXTO thing? Yeah, so UTXO thing, right? So this is already creating two transactions. instead, why don't we why don't we create this into one single transaction? So that is one of the major things that Ethereum solved. So that's what I meant when Ethereum is like a better version of Bitcoin, and I'll explain you later why. So we'll just go here. Yeah. So in this regards, where Bitcoin is very, what you say, strong in these regards, Ethereum just implemented the same things. Uh, Even though there are a bit differences under like cryptography. So yeah, so we have the previous hash, we have the timestamp, and for every block we have that. And the transaction route is basically all the accumulation of the hashes we just saw with using Merkle tree. So this is the transaction route. And nonce is something interesting. Nonce will also discuss this in distributed systems later in this talk. But nonce is the full form of it is number used only once. Used only once, yeah. So what does nonce do is plays a key important role of verifying the whole thing and keeping the whole blockchain intact. I'll share with you this later, what nonce does. So we covered the pre-Bitcoin era. We covered a bit of data structure, the hash pointers, and the digital ledger as well that has been created by digital signatures, and also the identity. Now I'll go through another presentation. Oops. Yeah. By the way, if you have time, you can check this out later. You can draw the most important picture out, and yeah, you can also check out this blog post. And then there's this textbook by, I think, Princeton, which is very famous. You can read the chapter one of it as well if you have time. The next speed lecture I have is with Nakamoto Consensus. So I was saying, right, like distributed system and what is Nakamoto Consensus and all. So we'll be going through that right now. So right now, we'll just do a quick revision. What are transactions? As I said, I just explained you the digital signature message. It gets encrypted via a private key. It creates a digital signature, and you can encrypt back with the same public key. Uh, Again, this thing, SHA-256, hash pointers, UTXO, and yeah, the Merkle tree and all. So uh, you can see this a bit of math here, which is like the height will be obviously log 2 to the n. So n is like number of nodes, I guess. I'm not sure. Uh, I Yeah, it's for the size to wait, is it? Anyway, I think I'll need to check this again. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So the properties are, so what we discussed right now was we cannot change the blockchain system. Even if we do, it will create another chain entirely because the hash will be different and the data will be different. So like if we tamper the data as we saw on SHA-256, so even the Somaiya's S is small, it will generate completely new hash, and hence it will create whole another chain. So that's what we learned. uh, Efficient proof of membership was the transaction route that we did it with Merkle tree. And there's a permission network which will be going through later this part. Yeah. So now we did pseudo anonymity, and we also did digital cash and secure cash using cryptography and data structure. Now we'll learn more about authority and what does it mean to uh, have the phrase of without any central authority. I'll just take a sip of water. So, excuse me. Yeah. So by the term authority, what I mean is like, uh, there in our in our traditional financial system, there are authorities like for printing money in India, there's RBI who regulates. Otherwise, anyone would have made the money and uh, bad things could have happened. So we need authority in general. Oops. Give me a second. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think my AirPods died, so oops. Uh, Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Can you see me then? I'm not sure if you can see me. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so uh, is the quality good or it has been reduced a bit? The voice quality, because I'm not using my AirPods right now.
It's good.
Okay, all right. So right now, what we do in financial system is like the ledger, right? The ledger means if I'm paying like 5 INR to some vendor, that has been recorded by the bank. So they maintain all the ledgers of all the people who have account with them. And bank is also kind of the authoritative institution which decides whether to include that transaction or not. Let's suppose say, excuse me, let's suppose say I have to give 50 rupees to a vendor, but I only have 45 rupees. So they'll check for me that if I have correct balance or not. So that is also what a bank does. And who proposes the next block? So majorly everything has been done by the bank recently. So for the financial system, it's the bank, and who creates or prints coin is the government or some central authority like RBI for us. And but for now, the decentralized world, for an online world, or in case of Bitcoin, that we don't want to have a central authority, right? Because we saw in the 2008 crisis that there are people who have been suffered because of banks getting, you know, like just shut down, just going broke. So that's the thing. We don't want banks to control our own money. We don't want any central authority to control our own money. So that is what Bitcoin is doing, kind of, and it's all doing this by cryptography, data structures, and a bunch of algorithms. So uh, there is a sense of a trustless ecosystem that the Bitcoin is building without any human intervention. It's just like through pure code and pure logic that they are doing. So with central authority, the problem comes is that I'm pretty sure you must have seen this movie called as Aladdin. Let me uh, oops, just give me a second. Yeah. Uh, Yeah, you must have seen the movie Aladdin, and the dictator he is of an imaginary world called as Wadia, and so basically in this central authority, or what happens in general is like if you are closer to the people who are in power, you get access to a lot of resources, or maybe like an unfair advantage. So in this example, what I'm trying to refer to is like, it's, let's suppose say Vadia is friend uh, of Alice, and he is an enemy of Bob. Okay, so let's suppose say Bob, both of them are friends. Okay, and Bob wants to send some money like 15,000 INR, and yeah, and if he is the dictator, or if he is the central authority, he has that power to, like literally control his bank account and send the money without even him knowing. So that is kind of an like, a abuse of power in general that we often see, not just in India but across the world. So how can we, do this without central authority? Like, how are we going to manage all the transaction and the ledgers? So as I said in the previous lecture slide, during the introduction part, that building a ledger for Alice and Bob themselves is a very straightforward transaction. But when it comes to a group of people, or like your database is like, what, millions of people, how are you going to do everything? Like, this ledger should be, all the transactions should be equal or like similar to this ledger, this ledger, this ledger, and to 1 million other ledgers uh, who have every like transaction in it. So it's a bit difficult to do it without a central authority, but Bitcoin has done it. uh, how? So I'll go through this. I'll go through this diagram at the end of the slides, because I think you'll know more about this at the end of the slide. But I'll just give a brief introduction of what we are going to learn here. So who maintains the ledgers? So these ledgers, right? These ledgers, who maintains them? Who verifies and checks that everything is up to date in Alice's ledger, in Bob's ledger, in this group 1 ledger, and this group 2 ledger? So who verifies that? So there is something called as full node system that every blockchain has. So um, what you can think of is like a peer-to-peer. I'll just create a small diagram here. A peer-to-peer network here. So this is computer A, this is computer B, C, D. So if the transaction is happening on computer C, it it will show that transaction, or it will send that transaction to ledgers of A as well as B as well as D. So that is what the concept of networking comes in, and the concept of networking is essential. Peer-to-peer concept is essential for Bitcoin. And who decides which transaction to include? It's like an individual miner. We'll go through the miner right now. So what are the roles in Bitcoin system, the mechanism? So there are mainly two roles, the miner and the user. These all, I don't think we should go into this detail because it will be very heavy for you guys. So we'll just discuss about miner and users. So who is the miner? Miner is like a maintainer, miner is someone who is actually maintaining all these ledgers of Alice, Bob, group 1, group 2 in real time. And he's also the verifier of the transactions. If Alice is sending Bob like 10 bitcoins, he's actually verifying that Alice has actually sent 10 bitcoins from her wallet to Bob's wallet. So they do that as well. And new block producer, miners a new block producer as well. So I'll go through this concept later. The full nodes are miners. I'll just give this, my bad, sorry. And the second one is users. So users are here in case us individuals, right? Users, who are the users of a bank? Us, the common public, right? So in this case, we'll consider Alice, Bob, group 1 and group 2 are the users. So they'll do is they'll send the transaction to miners. This actually, the flow of a transaction is, the transaction goes through a memory pool, which is called as mempool. So mempool is like all the transactions that you are sending to Bob, that Alice is sending to Bob, are constructed in a mempool first of all. So all the Bitcoin transactions are in mempool who have not been verified yet. After mempool, miners decide which ones to add the transactions in the block, add the transactions as data in the block, as this, yeah, as the data inside the block, as we saw here. as the transaction route. So yeah, so the miners decide they'll extract few transactions from the mempool, and then they'll verify it, and they'll they'll put it, they'll put it in the block, and then that means that the after putting it in the block, the transaction happens and it goes to block. So those are the users that like actually send money or digital coins or assets from Alice to Bob. Yeah, so we'll talk more about consensus in general. So consensus is like you know uh, a word consensus, a synonymous word for consensus is like togetherness. uh, how does that work for Bitcoin? Since we don't have a central authority, we'll have to like trust someone or the other, right? It goes to trust. So we are trusting that miners are doing their work ethically, so that Alice is able to send all the transactions, all the her Bitcoin to Bob. So new transactions are broadcasted to all nodes. So this happens gradually. So let's suppose say and all the nodes, by nodes, uh, it means geographically and logically as well. So what does geographically and not logically means? So you must be knowing all the peer-to-peer network diagram I showed you, right? So in that, the miners who are closest to Alice's local computer will search for her transaction. The logical part comes later, that I'll explain later. But the geographical part is whoever is the closest node to Alice will pick up the transaction and do the verification on that. Uh, and then what does miner do? Miners collect all the new transactions, verifies them, and put them into the next block he is building. So there's this block that miner is building. There's nothing inside here, but miner is secretly extracting. This is miner secretly extracting every transaction from the mempool and adding it in the block like this. Yeah. So that is what miners do. And each round, a random lucky miner gets to propose his block. So after a block has been filled with as I said, the maximum capacity is 1 MB, and the miner tries to fill it as much as possible to max level 1 MB. So this miner will create this block, and then he'll propose to the Bitcoin blockchain that is currently running. So everything that is happening here right now, this portion, it's kind of happening on the local system of the miner. So from the mempool is very local to the miner and to the user as well. So the miner mining in, let's suppose, say Singapore, I'm denoting this as SG, will be entirely different, will have an entirely different mempool or memory pool or number of transactions or the data as compared to a miner. Wait, I'll just write it down here. As compared to a miner who is mining from India. You get this? So uh, and the thing with miners is there are multiple miners doing multiple transactions, verifying multiple transactions across the world at the same time. So so after, if the miner in India has proposed a new block, and let's suppose that the Bitcoin blockchain is at block number 51. So you are going to propose a block which is after 51, right? So the block 52, the proposed block 52 for miner sitting in Singapore is this one, and for this miner in India sitting is also this one. So actually there will be a confusion, obviously, right? If there is a miner here who is also proposing a block of number 52 with different transactions as compared to a miner sitting in Singapore who's also proposing block 52. So how will blockchain decide which one to append to their to the main system? So uh, this is what and this is not just for miner in India, one miner in India and one miner in SG. There are like actually hundreds, like hundreds of thousands of miners across the world, right? So how do you maintain this block? First of all, how do you maintain a ledger and then create a proposed block and then append it to the Bitcoin? So this is a bit complicated, I would say. So just hear me out. Right now, so other miners also verify the proposed block, and other miners implicitly express their acceptance by building their next block on top of the proposed block. So let's suppose, say, the Bitcoin Bitcoin system, for example, appends this block of miner sitting in Singapore. Then what happens to this Bitcoin, this block as well, right? That is another question we have. So I'll just discuss this in more detail. Yeah. So new transaction broadcasted to all the nodes. So this is the input, as I said. The output is Alice is sending the 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 Bitcoin to Bob. Bob's address is, the amount is 10 Bitcoin and the signature is this. So this is Alice. Alice is maybe, sitting right now in Singapore where I am now. So let's just write Singapore, and the the system will find the nearest node to her, or the nearest miner to her. So after finding it, and the transaction would be sent to her, and she'll since the whole ecosystem, the whole network is peer to peer, she will alert all the other uh, nodes as well. You can see the exclamation mark. So they this girl here, maybe she's sitting in Thailand, she's also getting to know of this transaction that Alice made sitting in Singapore, because of this node and because of the peer-to-peer network system. So now what do miners do, right? So this this transaction was forwarded to this miner. Let's suppose, say, from her, this went here and here. Now what does a miner do right now? So uh, each so this mechanism, this consensus mechanism, is called as proof of work. So proof of work is basically like one random miner will be luckily selected, like out of these all miners, one random miner will be luckily selected to append this block on the blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain. So that is what we say when he proposes a new block. And how does he do it? uh, there's something called as computational power, which is used here to verify and append the block. So uh, there is a computational puzzle that you solve, right? So a computational puzzle is similar, like when we were children, we used to solve a jigsaw puzzle, and that used to take time, right? So this is same concept is applied in computational puzzle. So what happens is that if you want to append a block, if you want to propose a block and add a block to the main system of blockchain, what you do is you concatenate the nonce, the previous hash, the timestamp, and the transaction marker bit. So we are getting a nonce here again, right? So this is the major fun part here. So if we are doing a lot of hashing here, that's why cryptography is so important in any blockchain system. Right now, the main picture we had was of, we discussed about previous hash, timestamp, and transaction root. So these all were created to have a secure digital cache, and then to be a bit of pseudo anonymous. But the nonce is used here to literally make the chain out of the blocks. And how, I'll show you this. So what does miners do is, like, they they have this nonce on every block, and this nonce is a private number that they don't know. No one knows this nonce. So let's suppose, say, the nonce is, you know this number of this data d1 will have a nonce n1, and so on. So this nonce is not known to miners, but what they do in this computational puzzle, in layman terms, is they try to get as close as possible to this number. Now, what I mean by that is like this can be definitely encoded, sorry, decoded to a binary string, which is of 256 bits. So they use their computational power to be as close as to this 256 bits. Now, as I said again, right, it's very hard for anyone to predict this very accurately. There's no chance. There's very less chance, as I said, right? 2 to the power of 256. It's very astronomical. So what they do is like they get to closer to this number. So that is the whole mechanism of proof of work. So uh, right now, what happens is when Bitcoin was newly introduced, miners were already on the system, and in early, like 2010 2011, where everyone got to know about Bitcoin, they started Bitcoin mining, which was like pretty much the same thing that I'm explaining right now. So the nonce, how they derived was and these are preset rules from the Bitcoin system. You can check the Bitcoin paper out, and what it says that uh, as the mining progressed, the hash was this, and right now the hash looks something like this. So can you see a bit of difference here? So during the early stages of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, the hash was full 256 byte. Now what it is like the more number of zeros are getting added. That means that the nonce is to harder to calculate. That is what it means. So right now, so if you have the number of starting zeros is the larger the number of starting zeros, the more the number of starting zeros, the more likely you're going to take much more effort to actually derive this nonce. So you'll obviously, if you have to derive the nonce, you'll obviously have to derive it with more computational power than before. So yeah, so the difficulty level should be less than everything here. So that's what I said. So you don't have to exactly predict the nonce, but you have to predict in some or the other way. So if the nonce of n1 is, let's suppose, say 5, 9, 8, 7, 6, 2, what you can propose is like a bit above or below. What you need to calculate is like maybe like 5, 9, 8, 7, 0, 0, or 5, 9, 8, 0, 0, 0. You have to be as close as possible to the nonce. That's the whole definition, I would say. Yeah. So the thing is, since there had like astronomical figures to guess any nonce, it's very hard to calculate. It's like literally legit brute force. You cannot derive any algorithm to it. You cannot derive any software. You just have to do it brute force. You have to like it's basically like hit or miss. And the interesting part about a nonce is that if your nonce is like let's suppose you're here 5, 9, 0, 0, 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, which is still not close to n1, the nonce one. But if you hit this target, there's no guarantee that you'll hit the target in the next round closer to 5, 9, 8, 7, 6, 2, closer to n1. So that's the possibility. So there's something called as Markov systems. Yeah, Markov systems, which derives the state and everything. Maybe you can check that out later. So what it says is that the probability of getting 5, 9, 0, 0 or any other number is same. So if you do a computation, like let's suppose a C1, that does not mean that the computation later you'll do will get you closer to n1. Yeah. So it's trivial to verify. It takes time. That is why it's called like proof of work. So right now, how long does it take to solve? So right now the average case is around 10 minutes. So if you have good computational power, and by computational power I mean good GPUs, and there is a uh, a hardware system called as Bitmain Antminer. I can actually show you the pictures of it. Uh, oops. Um, I can show you the pictures. Yeah, Bitmain, Bitcoin miner. So these are the machines. Uh, Yeah. So Bitmain Antminer S21, I think S19 is more famous than S21. I'm not sure, but yeah. So these are the machines that are used to actually like mine Bitcoin. Uh, so yeah. Okay. Uh, yeah. Yeah. So whenever we yeah. So right now it takes 10 minutes. So it's not like the average is 10 minutes, but mainly like the standard deviation is kind of like 10 minutes here. So there it's not like you'll get the transaction verified if you have less computational power. It will happen in like 50 minutes or something like that, but the the general time is like 10 minutes to verify a block. So yeah, the miner gets aware of the block, and also the thing with this miner is like maybe he is the same like a dictator. He can be just give me a second, there's a bit of problem here. Yeah. So how do you trust a single miner? Like Avdesh, you just said that the central authority is like group of people who are doing malicious activities. So this can be also a malicious guy who wants to like maybe steal Bitcoin from him, or he might be the dictator of Adia as well. Okay, so how do you actually uh, verify or prove that what he has done is legitimate and he is ethical in his work in verifying the block, and he is not tampering with the block or sending malicious transactions? So what does this do? Again, the advantage of a peer-to-peer network is that everyone who is like geographically located to near him will actually verify the work he has done. So other miners verify the proposed block. So after he has made the whole block, right, he'll send this block or send a copy of the block to everyone around him, and they will also check that if he has done the correct work or not. And after everyone has like are in the consensus, that's why it's called consensus mechanism, right? Like you verify it together that hey, this guy has done the correct work, and then we'll like append everything and make this a new block in the blockchain system. So that is what in short blockchain system works, and that is how miners verify and add a new block to the blockchain system. So yeah, so we'll go more on how do they check the blockchain. Sorry, the block that this guy has created. So the validity of all transactions included the signatures on spending UTXO. So they check the all the transactions that have been included from the past, and also the signatures and also the UTXO. They also check the Merkle root, and they also check the pre-hash and the larger timestamp as well. And definitely they'll also compute the nonce with regards to the nonce he got. Yeah. So yeah, so other miners implicitly express their acceptance by building their next block on top of the proposed block. So they don't say that, hey, your block has been proposed or something. They'll just say that he has done good work. Now we are going to build on his block. So let's suppose say this guy is Emmanuel. Okay, Emmanuel. So Emmanuel's block has been verified by everyone. Okay, and so all the other actors like the miners here next to him, all what will they'll do is like they'll just say that, hey, this is verified, now we'll start the blockchain, and like we'll start another block, and they'll do this repeatedly. But the thing you would ask me, like, why would anyone do this, right? Like I- i'm 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 not like wasting my time to just like verify a block, and what am I getting, what a miner is getting. So we'll get into that. But now what the thing with us is, like, let's suppose say this guy is ethical and he is like legitimate, but uh this girl, right, this girl wants to do something malicious, so she doesn't approve the block that has been appended. So what happens is that this is Emmanuel's block that he created in the blockchain system. This is the, I'll say, BO, which is original blockchain uh, block, and then uh, the, the 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 blockchain continues. By the way, yeah. So, uh, what if she disagrees with him, and she says that, hey, what you're doing is wrong, and I'm going to correct uh, your block and make my own new block and append it. So what happens is, like, there's a fork in the blockchain. What happens is, like, Emmanuel says, okay, I know that I'm ethical, I'm legit, everyone has verified, but if you want to still do your own thing, append your own block, add your own block, go ahead. So now, uh, let's call her uh, Tia. Okay, so now Tia gets her new block, and maybe there will be like a transaction here that won't be there. So like TO will be here and TO dash will be here, which is like a opposite transaction, let's suppose it. So how do you know that which block will is verified, and which block is truthful and which miner is truthful? So what everyone does is, like, they do the same procedure again. Like, they'll verify these two blocks, and obviously, right, like, as miner, and this has to be in consensus. If everyone thinks that Emmanuel's block uh, it's been truthful and it's legitimate, they'll just start building on their own on Emmanuel's block. But if they think Tia's block is legitimate, they'll start building on Tia's block as well. So there's a kind of a disturbance here, a consensus frustration or disturbance, like who to trust actually. So there is something called as BFT. You can check this out. Byzantine fault tolerance. I haven't added in this because the slides are very old. So yeah, so Byzantine fault tolerance is basically everyone coming together and saying and being like validating and saying okay to the 3/4 of all the transactions, in the sense that all those peoples are in the miners pool. They say that 75% of them, if they say that Emmanuel's work is correct, they'll build on it. And if even if 25% of the people will say that hey, Tia's work is correct, they'll also build on it. But the thing is, since we already have more consensus than Emmanuel has more consensus than Tia, this will go much faster, and this will have a lot of blocks as compared to Tia's, because only 25% of the network is working on Tia's block. Okay, so there's this dilemma now, like whom to follow. So the Bitcoin says the system Bitcoin system says the whoever has the longest chain, or in regards, which is equal to saying that whoever has 3/4 or more of consensus wins. they will definitely have the longest chain. So in this regards, if Emmanuel has 75% of consensus, this will be the longest blockchain and Emmanuel will win. So eventually Tia's consensus or the network effect will, go down. And Emmanuel, since Emmanuel's blockchain is already longest, everyone will try to build an Emmanuel's, and rest of all. So this will end at some point. Yeah. So yeah, so the longest chain wins. So yeah, that is what I just explained. So Nakamoto consensus. So Nakamoto consensus consists of proof of work and the longest chain rule, which is also called as, in terms of mathematics, or in research we call it as canonical chain. Now, this guy is very important in the sense that a lot of people have given him the credit for being the creator of Bitcoin, who is Satoshi Nakamoto. But that there was this is a story, a very famous story, that his surname and his Japanese lineage uh, is closely attached to Satoshi Nakamoto, in the sense that his surname is also Nakamoto. So everyone thought that this guy is the real Satoshi Nakamoto, but this was not, and he himself has denied it multiple times. Even though there have been a similarity, because this guy also worked in a field of cryptography and something related to mathematics of cryptography. So there's still a chance, but since this guy is denying, we actually don't know. Yeah, but he is also a very key influential figure in the cryptography space of the blockchain. So let's analyze the Nakamoto consensus and all the miners and the peer-to-peer network we have here. So why we are doing decentralization here? Uh, as you can see, we don't want a central authority, right? So the power should not be concentrated on one man's hand, or a one, institution. So that's why we are decentralized it to multiple miners, multiple node operators. And right now, so the every miner could compete. So as you can see, right, like this is called as something called as network effect. So if he is saying that, hey, I have this transaction to everyone, this guy will also say this to him. So there's a bit of network effect that's happening around here. So every miner could compete and probabilistically become the first to solve the puzzle. So whoever solves the puzzle first will obviously get the chance as well. But this also comes at the cost of computational work that you have been putting. So uh, as I said before, right, the Bitmain miners that we have. So if I have more number of Bitmain miners like mint Bitcoins as compared to Alice or Bob, I'll obviously definitely like mint a lot of Bitcoins. So that is the 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 probability here. So if I have more Bitmain servers, I'll definitely get more Bitcoin as well. So actually, is there any way to dominate the proof of work race that I already shared with you? So yeah, so this is something kind of the hash rate. So during its inception, and since like now, the hash rate is becoming much stronger. That means that the network activity of miners is much higher. That implies that hash are getting computed at a much faster way. That kind of means that the network is getting more and more miners in general. So yeah, that is one thing. So why do miners do this? Why do miners use their computational power, and this computational work that they are putting to, like, get the nonce, is very electricity and intensive, at least in the proof of work case. Like, you can legit see that if he has the network, if he has a transaction, he needs to send this to other people, that person has to send to other people, then he needs to verify the transaction, then they also need to verify the transaction. And this works throughout the whole entire ecosystem, the whole entire system. So a lot of people are literally like wasting just electricity to even verify the verified. So yeah, so why do they do that? So one mechanism that they are getting incentivized by is, after they append the block, they get something called as they get something. The term is called as coin creation. So all the miners that append the block will get a few Bitcoin in return. So the thing with Bitcoin is, right, the supply is 21 million. So what this means is that there will be only 21 million Bitcoins around like the entire existence of the Bitcoin network. So it won't increase, it won't decrease. Sorry, it won't it won't change. The thing with 21 million is this is deflationary. What does that mean? Deflationary and inflationary. So our fiat currency, our dollar or INR, is inflationary. That means that RBI or uh, uh, the Fed there, the SEC in the United States can actually print out large chunk of cash and put it in the open market. And that actually, this is a concept of economics, the supply and demand. You definitely, if you take up economics mod, you'll see something like this graph. So this is supply and this is demand. So if you increase the supply, the demand, if you increase the supply, the demand will be low, and if you increase the demand, the supply will be low. So you have to be at this equilibrium point every time. The same concept applies to fiat currencies in general, which are inflationary. Like uh, you must have seen, your father saying that, uh, back in their days, the samosa used to be 1 rupee and now it's like 10 rupees. So that is called as inflation. What deflation is like exactly the opposite. So if I'm giving you an example, if the samosa back in the day was 1 rupee, what it will be now is like 25 pesos. So that is called as some like deflationary. So uh, right now, what miners do is like every transaction that Alice sends to Bob. Wait, let me just clear this out. Oops. Yeah. Okay. All right. So every time Alice sends something digital asset like Bitcoin, let's suppose say 5 Bitcoin, she is. By the way, BTC means Bitcoin. It's like a ticker mark. If you have traded stocks, there are like ticker symbols for stocks. Like let's suppose say for Apple, it's AAPL. Like for ONGC, I think it's ONG, something like that. Yeah. So these are all ticker symbols. Same goes for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, it's BTC. For Ethereum, it's ETH. Okay. Yeah, that's just common knowledge, basic knowledge. So whenever Alice sends Bob some Bitcoin, obviously miners will have to like verify this transaction and add it to a block. But what miners get is, so there are two pools right now. Okay, this is Bitcoin pool, and I'll just say Bitcoin is equals to 21. Oops, 21 million in quantity. So there are Bitcoins that are actually currently in supply, and there are Bitcoins that are currently not in supply. What do I mean by that? So the supplied one is actually the one Alice is kind of transacting with. So these are all in the open market. These are all that we are kind of trading. Sorry, this is called as OM, or open market. So this is where Alice is sending any like Bitcoin to Bob, Bob is sending to another user. So all the users that are doing transactions are through the supplied Bitcoin, and the non-supplied Bitcoins are stagnant in a pool. And how do the non-supplied one comes to the supplied pool? That is where the coin creation happens. So that is where, when a miner actually verifies this transaction to a block, he creates a block, and once all the miners says that, hey, the block made by, let's suppose, say Emmanuel is verified, and you are allowed to make a block on top of it. Let's suppose say this block has been made by Tia, not Tia, but let's say made by Yash. So what Emmanuel uh, has done is, like, he already verified, right? But in in the process of verification, he has used so much computational power and electricity that he needs an incentive. So what Bitcoin does, the Bitcoin ecosystem, the Bitcoin system does, that they will give a few Bitcoin from the non-supplied pool to the supplied pool, and name it in the and you know uh, name it in send it to the Emmanuel's address. So it will come from non-supplied to supplied, and then it will go to Emmanuel's address directly. So that is how they get incentivized. There is another way, which is transaction fees, which I'll cover the next point is, but this is the coin creation that happens in general. Yeah. So uh, this I have half an hour, right? Hello. Yes.
Yes, yes, you can continue.
So this is how they get the coin creation, the incentive to actually verify the transaction. Okay. So yeah, so the first one is the block reward, which is the coin creation. After every block they attach, they get the coin creation. So right now, the not right now. So I think during the initial phase, when it just started, like during 2009-10, the block reward was 12.5 Bitcoin per block. So before, like, you can see this in terms of money. From 2008 to 2010, Bitcoin was like worth pennies, literally pennies. So this made sense to like have 12.5 Bitcoins per block as an reward mechanism. So let's suppose, say the you append one block, you add one block, and you get 12.5 Bitcoin, which is like around, which was around back then, like maybe even less than $12. But for the sake of this argument, let's just say 12.5 USD, right? Now, as like append blocks and add blocks, it will obviously become a tamper-proof blockchain system. So generally in the system, what Satoshi Nakamoto devised was the Bitcoin reward gets halved every 2100 blocks. So this is around, like, you can calculate 21000 divided by, if the average time taken by a block to append is around 10 minutes, the calculation comes out to be every 2 years. So every 2 years the block price, sorry, the reward gets halved. And you can see in the in the monetary value as well. Like, if suppose you mine this around 2010 to, no, not okay, so let's take 2010 to 2012, 2012 to 2014, and so on till, let's suppose, say 2017 to 2018. Okay. So 2018 to 2019. Okay. So now it's been halved by, like, how many times? Like 12.5. Let's for the sake of argument take 12. It has been halved like how many times? 6. So this is 6, this is 3, this is 2. So around 2018 to 2019, to append one block, it took 2. Uh, to the incentive mechanism was two bitcoins for every block. But if you see the price, while uh, price, uh, price, if you see the chart right now, right, 2017, uh, yeah, 2017 was somewhere here. It was actually $11,000. So like if you mint like one block, you'll get around, sorry, this is 12,000. Yeah, 2017, 18 to 19, sorry, 2018 to 19. Yeah, $12,000 into two, which is like what, $24. So just to uh, get a block append, you can earn like around 24K, so that is the jump. And that is all like deflationary also means. But that doesn't mean that the computational power used here is the same as used here. You'll definitely have to have more GPUs here rather than here. So yeah, that's the point here. And the total supply is 21 million Bitcoin, as I said. And the two pools that we had, the non-supplied one and the supply one, uh, the non-supply one will get like into zero. All like we'll have all the supplied Bitcoins by the year 2014 if we go through the same hash rate that we are going through right now. The second mechanism that they earn their rewards is through transaction. So, why did Satoshi actually made this and this both? Why not just block reward? Because block reward will get over. Like by 2014, no one will actually uh, like mint or mine Bitcoin. So that's why this is something which is limited. Like the coming out of Bitcoin coming out of from non-supplied to supplied pool is limited, and it will the non-supplied pool will obviously get exhausted one day. So that's why Nakamoto said that, hey, let's also add this transaction fees as well. So what transaction fees is basically, let me erase everything. Uh, Yeah. So what transaction fees is, let's suppose I will take the same example, Alice and Bob. Alice is sending 5 Bitcoin to Bob. Yeah. So after Emmanuel, the miner, the ethical miner, the legitimate miner, has appended the block, he'll get the block reward as well as some of the transaction, some of the Bitcoin that is coming from Alice. So now in the blockchain system, it depends on Alice how much she wants to give to the miner. She can give, let's suppose say zero point 0.1 Bitcoin or 0.5 Bitcoin. It actually depends on Alice. Uh, uh, but what Emmanuel wants is, like, obviously the higher the transaction fees, the better he's going to be, like, financially, right? That's what the incentive mechanism is for Emmanuel. And since everyone is thinking of their self-interest, Emmanuel will definitely want to add the blocks uh, or the transactions that has the highest number of transaction fees, obviously. So if Alice and Bob has a, let's suppose, a transaction fee of zero point 0.1, she has decided that, hey, I'm allocating zero point 0.1 Bitcoin to the miner who is going to verify this transaction on the blockchain. And there's someone, Charlie, let's suppose that Charlie is sending just the same 5 Bitcoin to David. But what he says that, hey, I need to send fast. I'll just pay you like zero point 0.5 Bitcoin. So Emmanuel, since he's acting in his self-interest, will obviously verify this first rather than the Alice's transaction. So this is what happens. It does not mean that he will neglect the transaction. This can be put up by this can be picked up by another miner who is in the network, in the peer-to-peer network. But every miner, not just Emmanuel, will obviously definitely will go to this first. So that is the kind of dilemma here. Like, if you want to have a fast transaction, if you have to verify it fast, be it in Ethereum, Bitcoin, and any other blockchain, this is entirely like very general in the blockchain ecosystem. You have to pay more than like a lot of transaction fees if you want to like send it quick. So yeah, that's the thing. This is a formula: output amount minus input UXTO, which is like just I said, right? If Alice has 10, she wants to send Bob 4 Bitcoin. The output, sorry, the input UXTO will be, sorry, the UXTO will be 6, right? Like Alice will get back the 6, but out of those 6, Alice will decide what amount of you know Bitcoin she wants to transfer it to the miner, to Emmanuel. Yeah, and this transaction fee is like termed as ledger maintenance as a service. Like, you do maintenance of every database. Same with the blockchain, Bitcoin, or blockchain ecosystem, blockchain system in general. Yeah. So yeah, so transactions. So what about consensus again? We'll come back to this question often. So you know, will everyone will ever agree? And what happens to the transactions that the block didn't include? Like, what about since everyone is doing the computation, and let's suppose say he actually proposed the block, but what about the calculations this guy did? You know, this can be also valid, this can be malicious, but at least he did, right? He tried. So what about that? So uh, yeah, so and will the invalid blocks will get accepted? Like, that block has been invalid now, even if it's uh like legitimate, doesn't matter, because already Emmanuel has already sent out the block and it has been added. So what happens to those blocks? And by this, yeah, and what happens, like, if Emmanuel, this guy, and this guy finds the block at the same time, that the same block at the same time, what happens then? What's the consensus like? So what does this means is, like, you can literally, anyone can literally attack the chain and revert the chain as well. So this, there is a bit of security lag, I would say. So what happens is, as I said, right, let's suppose say this is, I was explaining this here, the TR example I gave. Yeah, this example is similar to this example. So this is the TR1 and this is Emmanuel's block. So uh, as I said, right, if by chance TR gets a consensus of every person, okay, so if TR says, like, uh, every person in the consensus, or in the node operation, 51% agrees that TR's block is legitimate, and we should work on TR's block, it will become the longest chain. But the thing with consensus mechanism and node operation is that it's very hard to get on a consensus which is coming from a wrong side, or from a malicious uh, attacker, or a malicious person who wants to destroy the blockchain. So it's the point where a TIA can get 51% of the whole consensus is astronomically low. So that is the thing I was saying back then. So yeah, how likely would the attack succeed? So if Tia wants to attack this whole blockchain, she is the malicious actor here. Emmanuel is the legitimate guy. How how would she do it? So in order to do that, she need to like gain consensus, at least 51% of the consensus of the whole network. So now I'll talk about more about chain fork rule. So let's suppose say both of these chains are going at the same time at the rapid pace. Okay, so this is Tia's one and this is Emmanuel's one. Okay, so what can be done and what are the forks, this is fork is just simply like what we discuss or what GitHub has, like you fork a repository. So this is what actually you do, kind of. So there are two types of forks. The one is temporary, so divergence on current view of blockchain state. So this is just a temporary blockchain fork, because if TR or any of the people in the consensus fails to have a 51% consensus in TR's block, the Emmanuel's block will, like become the longest one, and it will go on in that sense and become the longest one. And since Nakamoto consensus has only two rules, which is the longest one, uh, the longest chain rule, yeah, longest chain rule, and the proof of work, so Emmanuel will definitely win. Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. So apart from that, so this is how it is right now. So who maintains the ledger? The nodes, all the nodes that are acting peer to peer are maintaining the ledger, are maintaining the transactions. uh, who decides which transaction to include? The lucky guy who got the to propose a block, right? The individual miner who will first get the nonce correct, that guy is able to, like, add those transactions in a block. Who gets to propose next block? So the hardworking miners means the neighboring miners of Emmanuel that are going to propose the block which will be after block 10. uh, yeah, and again, who creates new coins or print cash? It can be either hardworking miner or individual miner as well. But the the the, the common term to say that it's the hardworking miner. Yeah. So we did secure digital cash. We also looked into pseudo anonymity, and we also checked on how we can do it without a central authority. So after this, is and again back to the same question: is this bad? Is, like, having two forks or having two chains simultaneously? Is it bad really? So it it's it's a dilemma, honestly. So for a hard fork, which is like backward incompatible changes, so if I'm making a hard fork of Bitcoin, that means that whatever I'm using currently on the new fork will not be compatible. The new technology that I'm going to be inventing or implementing on the hard fork, the recent fork, will not be executed on the original blockchain as well. That means, let's suppose, say I do the hard fork with SHA-512. So SHA-512 and SHA-256 are completely different. So this is where misalignment happens, and this is how Bitcoin, the original version, the original Satoshi version, was forked to Bitcoin Cash. So Bitcoin Cash was another group of people who thought, yeah, oops, Cash. Okay, so and this original Bitcoin still exists. So whatever transactions we are doing currently is this original version, which is called as Bitcoin Satoshi version, and this is with Bitcoin Cash. So Bitcoin Cash, the main difference between Bitcoin Satoshi version, which was proposed by Satoshi, the original one, was that the block size will be 1 MB, right? But for Bitcoin Cash, what they wanted to do was to increase the scalability of the blockchain itself. So the one block size for them was around, I think, uh, 3 MB or 10 MB. I'm not sure about the number, but it was higher than 1 MB. So that is how they got forked, and this was called as a hard fork, because whatever you're doing on the Bitcoin Cash right now, you cannot do the same things on Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. So that is one of the examples of hard fork. The soft fork is actually what Ethereum is, which we will talk in the next 10, 20. Oh, shit. In the next 5 minutes, I'll just skim through a lot of Ethereum technicalities. So yeah, so that Ethereum is backward compatible. That means that whatever you build on Ethereum, more or less, can be used to Bitcoin as well, the Bitcoin system as well. Even though the systems are different, you can still a bit of them you can use. So, some new functionalities and all. Yeah. So yeah, so this guy is the creator of Ethereum. He was, I think, around 19 or 20 when he created it. So one of the very intelligent guy in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. His name is Vitalik, and yeah, Vitalik, you can check him out. He recently turned 30, so yeah, I've a lot of respect to him, but because of the things he did for the Ethereum ecosystem and bringing forward the idea of having, a secure digital cash with pseudonymity and without a central authorization authority, which we'll discuss later on the next paragraph, on the next slide. Just give me like 10 minutes more and we'll be done. Yeah, so now we have Ethereum. So I'll skip the recap, everything. Yeah, so the Bitcoin limitations right now, that as we learned, was, I'll just yeah, the Bitcoin limitation that we learned was the UTXO model, right? Because the thing was, the Bitcoin system was doing two outputs, was sending two outputs, even if I want to send just like, uh, 40, 40 Bitcoins instead of 100. So the 60 will revert back to me. So it's kind of like a memory problem here. And if we can solve this, it will be very great. So that is what the limitation is, one of the limitation. So the second limitation is that Bitcoin uses Bitcoin script, and Bitcoin script is very, I would say, uh, simple language. It's not a language; it's just a script, a kind of a shell script, uh, and it uses a simple first in first out stack based language. And script is actually used for all the transactions in the in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So the basic understanding of the script, the Bitcoin script, is like they have two things: the programmatic language and the user input, which is the digital signature. And if after the resolution, if the input is sorry, if the output is true, the transaction is valid. So you can see that the output is actually Boolean and not something numerical. Okay, so I think I'll skip this. Yeah, I think I'll skip this part. Yeah, and the second what you say, um, second limitation to Bitcoin is the lack of Turing completeness. So you must have heard this word a lot, like Turing complete, and what is Turing complete and what is not. So to give you an example, all of the languages that we have, high level languages like Java, C, C++, all those are Turing complete. What does that mean? Turing complete. What does that mean? That they can solve any computational power problem, and they can implement any computable algorithm as long as it is under mathematical laws. So this means that they can do loops. They can create loops, if else loops. They can solve like conditional statements. The flow chart, we, as high school students get used to, the flowcharts, if else statements, all those things can be done in a Turing complete machine. That is TCM, Turing complete machine. But Bitcoin is not a Turing complete machine, and hence it's unable to run loops like while or if else or something like that. So why Bitcoin is not Turing complete? So Satoshi's whole vision was to just do this for transactions and nothing else. He just wanted to create a digital bank, I would say. So this is why Bitcoin is much simple, I would say. So only simple operations can be done, just like sending transactions and all. And yeah, so and Bitcoin is completely deterministic. That means that you can determine what the answer could be, because it's just like true or false. So the output can be either true or either false, which is determined. Okay. However, it is unable to implement feature-rich smart contracts. So feature-rich smart contracts, you can say that, like, it cannot enable loops and all. So mm, no, I'll skip this. So how does Ethereum, you know, uh, covers those limitations and strengths? So Ethereum was like introduced first in Jan 2014 by Vitalik at North America Bitcoin conference in Miami, Florida, and this was something like the presentation and all. And with Vitalik, there were like seven other few people who were like very genius, smart people in the cryptography and computer space, who eventually got disintegrated with the Ethereum Foundation and created their own bitcoins as well. One of them is Gavin Wood, and Gavin Wood created Polkadot. So, what does UTXO as a statement? So, Ethereum uses state machines, which means that all the global state transitions are stored in Ethereum. So, if this is UTXO, and all the outputs are attached to inputs, and the whole UTXO system is like this, what does state do? Everything is under inside one block. So as you can see, like, even if you spend, you sign, you create, everything is under one block, and you don't have to go anywhere else to see where is your output, or whom are you sending this to. So this is called as a state machine, which Ethereum is. So Bitcoin's user balance is sum of unspent transaction outputs that they own the private key to. So as I said, right, like there are two things when Alice is sending. If Alice is 100 Bitcoins, uh, if she's sending 40, then 60 is getting back to her. So this is what the statement means. And Ethereum's user balance is content within an account. So Bitcoin is something like this, but whereas Ethereum is stored, everything is stored in an account based system, like where account, you can see the balance, whereas all these things at UTXO are just transactions. You can see the balance, a number uh, linked to your account, and you can also write code, which I'll go through later. So benefits of a state model is space saving, obviously. Like if you are using two transactions to indicate that one has been sent to your friend and one has been sent to your to yourself, it if you do it and merge it in one, you'll obviously save a lot of space. And the second one is it's more intuitive, in the sense that it's easier to program smart contracts, and which keeps track of a single account versus computing the whole UTXO data set. So in regards to, like, I'll give you an example. If this is transaction 6, and if you want to look at this input, you'll have to go back to this output, then to this input, then to this output, then to this input, then to this output, and then to this input, and then back again. So you have to, like, kind of see through a linked list, and go way back to the genesis block, maybe. So that is one of the drawbacks of the Ethereum system. So yeah, so global state of Ethereum contains many accounts which are able to interact with each other through a message passing framework. You can check this out later. I won't go into this, but this is mainly the main characteristic of Ethereum. So Ethereum has externally owned accounts and contract accounts. So what does the main distinguish character of or system design of Ethereum and Bitcoin is that it has externally owned accounts and contract accounts. So externally owned accounts are your private keys and public key. So the pair of keys that you have, that everyone has, you, me, everyone, Alice, Bob, everyone. So this is the externally owned account is controlled by private key with no internal code. So
cannot modify or codify the wallets using an internal code, whereas in contract accounts you can control them by code. So like you can actually literally program, like you set up predefined conditions, and that's how the contract system, the contract account will work. So why do we have to do that? So contract account should contain programmatic languages not directly executed by a human. So it's just like a fail safe, I would say, that you can code now accounts in that sense. So uh, yeah, so the state system will definitely contain the address, the nonce, the storage root, and code hash as well. The same things. The storage root is same as Merkle tree, but the nonce is something different here, which I don't think I'll have the time to discuss. But anyways, the Merkle tree, the storage root is derived from Merkle tree, but this is a different Merkle tree, which is called as Merkle Patricia tree, which is hell of complications. I actually don't understand this still now, so I can't explain this. But yeah, so mining of on Ethereum, this is wrong. It used to be on proof of work, but since September 2022, it has been changed to proof of stake. So proof of stake is like, as you said, that there have been a lot of nodes here, and these are all P2P connected. Instead of one lucky miner getting the what do you say getting the node to verify what all these network validators, and these are called validators on Ethereum, by the way. These are not called miners. So all this validator v1, v2, v3, all these validator v4, v5, what will they do is they'll already have a certain amount of Ethereum that they have. So this is completely opposite of what Bitcoin had. Like we had non-supplying Bitcoin versus supplied Bitcoin, right? And all the system was doing was transferring non-supplied to supplied one. But here, what they are doing is kind of opposite. So what they are doing is they are creating all the validators that want to participate in this network. What they are doing is they're creating a pool, staking pool, that is called a staking pool. So what they are doing is they are like coming in this staking pool, and everyone is adding their own Ethereum. So right now, I think to run a validator node, it's 32 Ethereum. So this pool will have 32 into how many validators we have? 5. So these many Ethereums we will have now, and this thing is like, as in proof of work, it was mainly the 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 lucky guy. Here what you see is like only validator 5 will, if we are assigning the node to v5, only validator 5 will validate that node and no one else will. And we are saying that in his self interest he should be doing that, because if he doesn't do it, and if his verification is wrong, or he is doing something malicious, his stake will be cut from 32 to something like 30 or 31. So he will be penalized. That's the way. And this will save so much of time and energy, because no one has to verify the block except this guy. So that is one of the major uh, point of, like Bitcoin using a lot of energy to have the transactions validated, and the blocks validated. So proof of stake, which is called as POS, makes it much more clean, I would say. Yeah. And for average block time is 12 seconds. So in comparison to Bitcoin, which was having 10 minutes, this is 12 minutes. So which is actually very good. I won't go into Ghost, not this. And yeah, last part is Ethereum virtual machine. So how do people code on Ethereum? There are few languages called as Ethereum, Viper, Serpent as well. Yeah, Serpent. So these just like I think you must have done Java, coding in Java. So just like Java has something called as bytecode, it's converted into bytecode. and then it's converted into JVM, which is Java Virtual Machine. Same goes for Ethereum as well. Solidity, you program it into Solidity, which compiles into bytecodes. Bytecode is nothing but like, I think it's hexadecimal numbers, and then it's executed by the EVM, which is Ethereum Virtual Machine. And EVM allows for full smart contracts, which stores an internal state, which also supports loops and recursions as well. And the internal state of an account can be changed through computations, which is like the predefined statements that you already write using Solidity. Solidity is the major language. Viper and Serpent, I think, are deprecated, so no one uses it right now, but Solidity is still strong. Yeah, and it's like, so the state of an account which has the balance, the storage route and everything that we discussed. So either it can be changed through computation like the code, or through transactions. uh, yeah, think about to previous phase. Okay. So yeah, this is a bit informative, I would say. So if you want to go into the development of Ethereum and Solidity, so you need to you will hear a lot of call and send operations in Solidity. So transactions can only be sent from an externally owned account, which is like your private key or public key. And what you can do is like you can call or you can send. So call is read and send is like write. So sending means like Alice sending 10 bitcoins to Bob when she has 100. That is called as sending. So you are actually writing, you're actually, changing the state of the account in real time. Okay. And by call, you mean that, after this, Alice will have 90 bitcoins. So if you want to like check the balance, what you will say is like, hey, you'll read this and you'll call this function. There are predefined functions as well, just as in JavaScript, or like, not JavaScript, JavaScript. They have predefined functions. Same with Solidity as well. And messages as well. I think it will confuse you with transactions, so I think I won't go into this. So yeah, that this is the user flow. So it goes from your wallet as a transaction to a contract account, which is this account, contract account. Then it does some internal transactions. Internal transactions are the messages. So this is actually kind of changing the state of the account inside. So but when Alice had 100, now she has 90. So there's an account change, right? Uh, and then after that, it will go to the contract account again. So this is like the user flow. Yeah, so these are a bit of operations. You can write down it in Solidity. So if you are using two and then writing the public address, you can like send the Ethereum, any Ethereum amount of Ethereum, public address, comma, there are two parameters, sorry, public address, comma, the amount of Ethereum you want to send. So this is two. Value, gas price. By the way, gas price is something like transaction fees that you're going to pay. Same concept as of blockchain where you have transaction fee, just that we call here it as gas price. Yeah. uh yeah, so every computation and transaction incurs a gas fee, which is some same as transaction fees in Bitcoin. And what does the gas fee indicates is like, since we already have a lot of coding, right, and loops, it contains loop. So we don't want the loop to, like, run continuously. And like if there is a, what do you say, fault defect in our code, and if we are just like running the loop infinitely, it will exhaust all of the Ethereum that we are going to have, that will have in the account, right? So just to prevent that, they've introduced this called as gas fees as well. So, and also the denial of service. What does denial of service means? That if suppose say Alice and Bob, uh, if Alice is sending like if Alice has 0.1 Ethereum, and she wants to send 0.2 Ethereum, right? The denial of service means that she can't share it, because this is one of the examples because she has insufficient balance. Yeah, so it can deny. One thing I also would like to note you down is the concept of atomicity. Atomicity. So what does atomicity means? That uh, since there are a lot of stages for a transaction, right? Like what transaction is happening from a EOA to contract account, and then there are internal transactions as well, and all of these things are registered in a blockchain or an account, right? So even if a, a single transaction fails in maybe internal transaction inside the account or a transaction in general, the whole process will be reverted back. That means if all of this only if all of the requirements are satisfied, then only it can send. Otherwise it will send your Ethereum back to your account. So that is called as atomicity. And gas is the unit to measure fees as well. So one GUI is like one GUI is like, I think 1 million ETH. So yeah, so that is what I said right now. The start gas is 250. If the start transaction is using 100 gas, 150 gas, so 250 minus 150, it will return, not 150, sorry, 100. It will return 100 and it will end the transaction. But if you don't have enough gas, like the start gas you have indicated is 120, but you have used more than the gas amount you have indicated, then out of gas, and it will revert back to the sender and nothing will be received on the receiver's end. And yeah, gas is also used to pay for storage, because since we can code out smart contracts uh, on Ethereum, we can also store our addresses or any data on the smart contract as well. So yeah, that's how gas can be also used. This is the chart of gas prices. I don't think it's relevant. And yeah, so we discussed about Bitcoin script and its limitations, the state model, EVM, and gas. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You can check out gas station. You can check out Ethereum white paper. Also, if you want to, go ahead and want to learn more about cryptography or blockchain systems, you can go to Vitalik's. I won't suggest to go directly on Vitalik's blog, but these are one of the best in the industry out there. I also want to showcase you one diagram, just the last piece. I'm really sorry. I think I've been over my time limit, but I'll just show you this one thing that I'm really like. I was preparing for this presentation, and I got to know about this. So this is what a decentralized system looks like. So if we have a traditional stack like financial system that we had right now before Bitcoin or Ethereum existed, what we had was banking systems, right? But this has been replaced by Ethereum or stable coins, or Bitcoin as well. In general, you don't have to worry about these complex terms, but just in general, that banking system in traditional stack is relevant to Ethereum in a decentralized stack. The second is receipts, like the transactions that you have, the monthly bi-weekly statements that you get from the bank that you can request to. This is same thing as links to transaction or block explorer. So you remember I showed you Etherscan before. So this is basically like receipt of everything that you have done on a blockchain. The corporations are called as DAOs, which I think you can, self-explore this, which is called as decentralized autonomous organizations. And apart from that, the DNS that I said, right, that .com and .io, which is replaced by .eth on a decentralized stack. The regular email has been encrypted, has been converted to encrypted email, and the regular messaging app has also been converted into decentralized stack. And yeah, that's I think that's pretty much it. This will confuse you more. So yeah, I think I'm I'm done with the presentation. If you have any doubts, you can post DM me on LinkedIn. If you have any doubts regarding for any master application as well, master's application in Singapore, I'm ready to help. I'm very happy to help. But if I'm a bit slow on LinkedIn because I don't use that often, but I'm very active on Twitter. This is my Twitter handle. So yeah, if you want to connect, you can just connect. I'm done. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks
Thank you,
for
Avdesh, for the amazing session. I hope everyone understood lots of advanced topics in the field of blockchain, because what we get to know from the YouTube videos is a little bit beginners thing. But when we got to know from the experts, when they have a pretty good knowledge in the field, we get to know the practical knowledge as well as the theoretical knowledge. So thanks a lot, Avdesh, for doing the session. Thank you.
All right. It was my pleasure. And by the way, I've been into Somaiya. I was a high school student there. That's how I met Yash actually. So
Yeah.
he was my, like lab mate in high school, 11th and 12th, and we used to study together and all. And I grew up this fascination in 12th itself. So I think Yash has seen me throughout this journey of learning and, spreading the knowledge as well. And I just want to thank Yash and IET team in general, because I don't think I would have done this without Yash's support, because I'm a very shy, introverted little, like, shy, naive guy. But Yash pushed me to do this, and he said that, you can do this. So that's how I created the slides and I did it. Yeah, so thank you all. And thank you all for attending this. I know I've been a bit late. It was supposed to be a 2-hour lecture, but it went for 2.5, maybe 3 hours. So thanks a lot for sticking with me throughout the end. Thanks a lot for having me. And yeah, peace. Thank
I
you.
want to say one thing, Avdesh. Even if it was a very long session, it was very informative. And even I know like theoretical parts of blockchain. I have implemented Solidity, but I got to know a different view of blockchain all over when I saw your PPT. So
Hmm.
one request I want to make to you is that please share the PPT with us so that they can also learn about this. And thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. See you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Uh, Participants, the feedback link and the quiz link has been shared in the WhatsApp. I will share it. So please
By the way,
let
I was also trying to build a blockchain using Python, but I think my content was so much that I couldn't do it. So apologies for that. But anyway, I also tried to do a Kahoot quiz, but I think Kahoot is paid. So anyways, I think Yash already has the questions that I was implementing in a quiz format. So yeah, you can just fill the feedback form, the quiz as well. And yeah, hope to see you in the next session if I have it.
thank you, Avdesh.
All right. Thank you. See you. Bye bye.
Yes, sure.